there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that. While you're here, let's get into a Champions Classic. It's held last night inside State Farm Arena, downtown Atlanta, doubleheader featuring 4 monster programs. We'll start with the nightcap. Terrific game. Final score, Kentucky 77, Duke 72. Mark Pope's Wildcats overcame a 10-point deficit, not to mention a talent deficit, en route to upsetting Cooper Flagg and the Blue Devils. Cooper Flagg, he, of course, is the projected number 1 overall pick, 2025 NBA draft, was mostly terrific, 26 points, 12 rebounds at the age of 17 in the Champions Classic. That's incredible, but he did turn it over twice in the final 15 seconds of a one-possession game, and then he got pushed under the goal by Otega-Owe in the final 10 seconds, which resulted in an offensive rebound on a Kentucky missed free throw with 5.1 seconds remaining, and that, as they say, was that. Congrats to Mark Pope. First signature victory as coach of his alma mater. That's always fun. Norlander, I know you had your eyes on it. Your thoughts, please.
No doubt about it. Good morning. That was a heck of a nightcap there with the Champions Classic. First game had its warts, no doubt about it. We'll get to Kansas and Michigan State after the break in just a little bit. But one of those games where, because it was just so exciting and really thrilling, a little bit hard for me to fall asleep last night. I was pretty jacked up after this performance there. You mentioned he had Flagg had the 2 turnovers down the stretch. He did, and he actually had 3 in the final 2 minutes after not having any before that. You got a little bit of everything, and this is part of the college experience. I was down in Durham last month and got to see Duke practice, sat down with the staff, sat down with Shire, and the one thing both Shire and Chris Carrawell and Jay Lucas and talking to all of them said he's going to be really good talking Flagg, but he's going to have bumps. There are going to be learning moments. This is not going to be a perfect year. And I thought Tuesday night encapsulated a lot of that. If not for Cooper Flagg, Kentucky would have won this game much more easily. Cooper Flagg had some tremendous plays down the stretch and really composed himself relatively well. In fact, I would argue until the crucial moments when it meant a lot, and whether he should have been the guy to have the game put on his back. I guess we can debate that if you want, but there's a variety of factors there. He really came into his own in the second half. After, he didn't shoot particularly well for the first 30 minutes of the game. He finished 9 of 19 from the field. But on the whole, he was the most impactful and important and best player on the floor in a really, really good game. Credit to Otega-Owe, who had 15 points, a variety of really important plays down the stretch. Obviously, he forced the turnover on Flagg. He's the one that got the board. He got the foul shots to clinch it there. And good on Kentucky. So a fantastic game. Like, we've had a couple of games here in the first 8-9 days of the season. You go to the Carolina-Kansas game on Friday, the Auburn-Houston game, which was tremendous on Saturday, and then you get this. So we've had 3 games that were highly anticipated going in, and they certainly met the billing. Without a doubt, no question about it. That's my kind of immediate reaction. I got a number of different things, but I don't want to hog the mic here. What did you see? What were your takeaways? And I know you wrote a column overnight for CBSSports.com based on the Wildcats.
Yeah, let's focus on Kentucky for a second. They just hung in it the whole time. And, took advantage of the other team having a 17-year-old of its best player. I really do think it came down to that on some level. Malawach was cramping throughout the second half.
Which, by the way, has been it's
a thing at Duke, right?
Thing, which is weird. Flagg didn't have that issue in this game, but he had an issue in both previous games. And then Malawach had the cramping there, although he wasn't the only one. Lamont Butler cramped near the end of it. So some of it, you get up for a game like this, and it's like a super highly competitive, up and down, like awesome game. These could wind up being 2 of the 5 best teams in the country. We don't know. I get it on a certain level, but yeah, it's a weird pattern that developed.
Yeah, and John had publicly expressed some frustration about it in recent days connected to Flagg. Last night, Flagg wasn't the issue. It was Malawach, but still, like, one of their 5-star freshmen was, laying on the ground cramping. That's not ideal. Con Kneppel was not, having his best night. He was 5 of 20 from the field. That's a guy who had played well in the season opener, had a great preseason, so much so that some have started suggesting, like, are we sure Cooper Flagg's the best player at Duke? Yeah, I think so. I think we're sure. All the NBA people seem to be pretty sure about it. College coaches seem to be pretty sure about it. But, he had been playing well enough to at least start that conversation. Last night was not the best example of that. So it looked like to me in the final minute, like Cooper Flagg was just trying to win, go win. He looked like he was playing for his main AAU team, and he was trying to go win a game because who else is going to win it if I don't?
I think that's a good way of putting it there. I do think Duke's, they don't have like a pure point guard, run the offense, and I think some of that reared its head a little bit. It's not the only reason. Duke was also not good whatsoever from three-point range, which was another issue, but continue talking. But yeah, to your point, I agree entirely. It looked a lot like, okay, Cooper Flagg had done this in many other spots as a high school player, and here he was against Kentucky, and it didn't go the same exact way, which is no huge shock. He did a lot of amazing things, but you did see him going against guys who are 21, 22, 23 years old, and in a big spot late, even with Kentucky's players not being familiar with each other, having played in years and years. Kentucky certainly seemed more ready and built for that moment down late.
Obviously, in high school, he played with other talented guys, but on the grassroots level, he mostly didn't. And just he's been doing that for years, like 4 or 5 years. Like, okay, we need a bucket. We're in a game. I guess it's me. And that's what it looked like he was trying to do. The problem, of course, he was trying to do it last night against Kentucky and against, 4-year players and 5-year players and people 4 and 5 years older than him. And, it didn't end well, but he's fabulous. I mean, again, take everything you saw in the final 20 seconds, set it over here. And I know that determined the game on some level, so maybe not. But, he got 26 and 12 in the Champions Classic. He won't turn 18 until 4 days before Christmas. He's terrific, but it was a rough ending. I'm sure he'll benefit from it, learn from it, and be better going forward. With Kentucky, just a great night for the program. I couldn't be happier for Mark. I can't imagine what it's like to have that moment for your alma mater. Just first of all, to even be in this position. He helped someone win a national championship in, April of '96, becomes the head coach at his alma mater in April of 2024. And here he is, 9 days and 3 games into it, and he's got a massive victory over a fellow blue blood. And he did it in a way that the fan base just is going to so easily attach to. As I pointed out in the column, I actually started the column by noting that, just 3 days ago, John Calipari was coaching a bunch of 5-star prospects in a neutral court game against a Big 12 team that had lost by 38 points to a West Coast Conference program earlier in the week. And, they took.
Hold on.
That's what happened. That's a fact.
I know, but come on. It's Gonzaga. I know they're West Coast, but the way you're framing that, come on.
This is the way I have every disagreement with my. This is the way I have every disagreement with my wife. She'll say, "What are you even saying?" And I'll say, "Tell me the thing that I said that's untrue."
Yeah.
Highlight it.
Portland, which almost won at Oregon last night, by the way, on Tuesday. Come on now, you're not sneaking that past this goalie.
Hey, tell me the thing I said that's untrue. It was just 3 days ago, John Calipari was coaching against a Big 12 team that had previously lost to a West Coast Conference program by 38.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Okay.
All right? They took 23 pointers. They made 5 of them. It was 1996 basketball and a poor percentage from 3. And here comes Kentucky with Mark Pope and a fresh approach. They can't match Arkansas player for player. They can't match Duke player for player. But 7 of the first 12 shots were threes. 5 of them went in, and we're off and running. And it was just fun, and they closed strong. And Mark did his best afterwards in his on-camera post-game interview to deflect and, give credit to the players and give credit to the program and give credit to the fans. But that was him. Those were his fingerprints all over that team. He wasn't, as I wrote, Mitch Barnhart's first choice, nor should he have been. He should not have been the first choice. But he does, as we're sitting here on November 13th, and really not just based on what happened last night, but based on nearly everything that's happened since he was hired. he wasn't their first choice, but he feels like the perfect choice. He's got good enough players, and he'll have better ones going forward, more talented ones going forward. He started from scratch. Like Eric Musselman left John Calipari more than John Calipari left Mark Pope, which isn't saying much, but like that's the truth. This guy started from scratch. He's got talented players, and they look like a real basketball team that's fun to watch, enjoyable to consume. That was a big night for the program, a big night for Mark. And the way he has made not only the in-state media, most obviously Kentucky Sports Radio and everybody involved with that, but also just the fan base. He's made them feel like they matter again. Like, I don't want to spend much time just banging on John's head, but like John had got detached from all of that. And just it had gotten ugly and toxic, and that's all gone now. Like last night was a celebration of Kentucky basketball, and from a distance, in my office, I had fun watching it.
Yeah, actually, on that note, Maggie Davis is a local reporter for BBN Tonight, and she took this video here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check it out. This is Pope after the game. So the game has ended, and you can see all the Kentucky fans in the stands, and he's walking around, and he's, hugging people, giving handshakes and all that good stuff, and again, we're not going to bang all over Calipari's head or anything like that, but this is not a scene you would have seen with Calipari, right? And he does get it on a lot of levels. I mean, that was indicative of his first press conference once he got the job and all of that. But the fact that he did that, he kind of reiterated after the fact there, how much this is about, the players and the fans. I get all that, but he's the head coach, so he's going to have some element of responsibility and credit that goes to that. And on that point, you mentioned Kentucky Sports Radio. Yeah, he did a post-game radio hit from the team bus afterward, which like Matt Jones has hosted that radio program for well over a decade. It's the most listened to Kentucky sports entity in the state. It means a ton, and for a variety of reasons, Calipari and Matt Jones had no relationship in effect.
Because if you say one negative thing about John Calipari ever, you cease to have a relationship with him. That's the truth.
Yeah. So, and it's just it is what it is, and it was what it was, and that's done and over with. But the fact that now Kentucky fans can get that extra access to their coach is a significant thing. And then, as Pope revealed after the game on Tuesday, Duke had won 9 of the past 11 meetings between these two programs. And no, they don't meet every year, but they're guaranteed to meet at least once every 3 years. And it had been 9 years since Kentucky's fan base had experienced a victory over Duke. And that does mean something. These are the two most popular and polarizing programs in the sport. When they play each other, it means a very big deal. I don't know what the television number is. I guarantee you it's going to be a tremendous number based on a lot of factors there. But even beyond Cooper Flag and all the hype, it's Duke versus Kentucky. They both had numbers next to their name, and both had a lot going for them from a momentum standpoint heading into this game. Well, Pope revealed that he had showed his team the Duke wins over Kentucky, or the Kentucky wins over Duke in 78, in 92, and 1998, because, quote, he wanted them to know the history and what this game meant to Big Blue Nation, end quote. That's some pretty cool stuff. Kentucky had lost its previous 4 Champions Classic games. So it had been struggling against Duke. It had been struggling on this stage to start the season, its first big game of the season. And they come out and they get a win. And you had mentioned it, by the way, fashion, but I want to harp on this. They hung around, they fought, they were built for it. Duke did not go 10 deep in this game. Isaiah Evans, a freshman, didn't get on the floor. Darren Harris, a freshman, didn't get on the floor. Sion James left with something of a pinched shoulder issue. We'll wait and see what's more on that, but he wasn't available late. Malawatch was out for an extended period of time in the second half because of cramping there. In addition to Duke shooting 4 of 23, they just didn't look like they had enough charge in the battery late. Now, it's a narrow win, don't get me wrong, but when I was watching those final 3-4 minutes, Kentucky's bodies just seemed fresh, ready to go. Because as Dan Schulman, fan of the pod, shouts to Dan, had mentioned on the broadcast, no matter the lineup Duke was putting on the floor on Tuesday, everyone was at least 6'5" or taller. Like, they're a very this stuck out to me when I saw him in practice. It is a big team. Like Duke, it has awesome athletes, big size, good shooting. I think if its defense really clicks, if they can really put it all together and stay healthy, I think Duke has a very good chance of being a top 3 defensive unit. However, even in spite of all that, because Kentucky truly can go, and I think Pope is going to aim for this, to go 10 deep, that mattered in this game. Duke was not able to do that. We saw how much Shire wound up pinching the bench, which is no huge deal. But in a game like this, where it can be physical, when Kentucky, I thought Kentucky, if it could have dictated the conversation, it wanted to make this a race to 85. It didn't go that way, and Kentucky was still able to adjust there. Impressive stuff. And yeah, very a morale boosting victory for Big Blue Nation. You see your team shoot 10 of 25 from 3-point range. It's not amazing, but it's certainly good enough in a spot like this there. And you get done on a big stage what you hope to see. Like, you bring in this cast of characters. None of them had played together before until this season. And Duke certainly delivered a few different kind of blows there, but they were able to get it done. I was impressed by Owe. I was impressed by, obviously, Andrew Carr, who had a couple of really nice moments down the stretch. The fact that Jackson Robinson had only 1 point in this game, Parrish, and wasn't a factor, and Kentucky still won, I think was a huge bonus there, because even like Amari Williams had a couple of nice moments. Kobe Brea got caught in some bad spots on defense, and it didn't really wind up costing Kentucky, but he had 8 points there. A little this, a little that. Kirk Risa only had 6 points, and one of them was a pretty big 3 that meant a lot down the stretch in the second half. That was big stuff. And then last from me here, Duke is about to turn into a big stretch here. They're going to play 4 ranked teams in a 6-game stretch. Kentucky was a loss. I'll be at the Arizona game next week. Then they've still got Kansas and Auburn waiting after that. So we're going to have plenty more to learn and see from this Duke team. They played a good game, not a great game. As I said on HQ on Tuesday night, the loss to me really doesn't mean much, frankly, from a Duke perspective. I thought the win was the way more significant and meaningful result in terms of what it relates to and how much it means for Kentucky than Duke taking the L in this one.
There's no question, and then we'll move on. The story was Kentucky. Duke wasn't perfect, but Duke is going to be fine. They're immensely talented. If anything, this might have been a statement on, where we're at in the sport. Coaches are constantly discussing this, like, what's better, being more talented or being older? And last night you had a perfect example of that. Like, it's pretty contrasting. The Duke is undeniably more talented, but way younger. Kentucky, not as talented, but way older. And neither team had played together much, right? Obviously, there's some guys at Duke who were there last year, there this year. At Kentucky, there's none of that. But UK didn't look disjointed, and I thought that was a huge positive sign.
Yes.
If you're Kentucky, like last season, we talked about it. When you brought in 7 or more Division I transfers, you weren't good. None of those teams were good. Nobody who did that last year was good. NC State's the only one that brought in 7+ Division I transfers and made the NCAA tournament, and they only made the NCAA tournament, as you know, because they won the ACC tournament 5 victories in 5 days. So teams built this way typically look like they're built this way, just thrown together, and nobody knows each other. It took LeBron, James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade a minute to figure it out, even their first year in Miami. So, like, what are 8 transfers at Arkansas supposed to do? But the Kentucky didn't look like a basketball team that had never played together, and that's a massive positive sign going forward. I moved them up, if you're curious. I had Kentucky unranked to start the season, but in my top 30. So, like, right there, but I know, I get it. I'm on the record. You could go look it up somewhere, but like, people don't care if you're 27th. They either see you or they don't, right? You're either ranked or you're not. I have not had Kentucky ranked. I did move them into the top 25 and 1 on Wednesday morning. All the way up to number 13, 1 spot behind Arizona. Ooh. Duke down to 14. They looked the part, and more than anything, I thought the story was Kentucky and Mark Pope, and just go back and think about where that fan base was to end last season, where that fan base was when they didn't hire Scott Drew, when they didn't hire Dan Hurley, when they didn't hire Billy Donovan. It was a bit of like, they're beating themselves up a little bit, and last night was the complete opposite of that. And as I close the column, that is at CBSSports.com. Tuesday night was a big night for Mark Pope, and I don't think it's crazy to think bigger nights are probably on the way.
No doubt about it. Now, game one, stark difference there. The crowd for the Kentucky Duke game, obviously the majority of fans in there were Kentucky fans, and Duke's a national brand, but it was a lackluster start to the Champions Classic because swaths of empty seats and some really bad shooting. But Kansas gets the win over Michigan State. We will talk about it. There is stuff to talk about from that. But first, Nada, can we get a word from our partners?
Game one of the Champions Classic. It wasn't great, but it was historic. Final score, Kansas 77, Michigan State 69. For Bill Self, that represents victory number 591 at KU, moving him past Fog Allen and into the top spot on the Jayhawks all-time win list. I think last night at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, it was the first time that 591 has ever been chanted. I've never heard a 591 chant.
I'm not sure what else. Let me see if I break open the old Google machine. If I just type in 591, what pops up here? Telephone numbers in Bolivia is
What if we find out Hunter Dickinson really doesn't care about Bill Self at all? He's just a huge fan of Bolivia.
That's possible. Let's do the people also ask, where's the 591 area code from? I don't know if this is beyond Bolivia or not. Let me just open this up. Nope, it's just Bolivia. Okay, I didn't know if there was actually an area code in the United States. So yeah, it's just telephone numbers from Bolivia. The year 591. What happened in the year 591? It was a common year starting on a Monday of the Julian calendar.
I think that's when that guy walked on the water.
No, I don't think.
Was that before that?
I don't think so. I'm trying to. A locust swarm destroys the harvest in northern Italy. Approximate date 591. This is the first city wall of Hangzhou in eastern China was constructed. 591. Not a lot going down in 591. I got to be honest.
They were taking it easy back then. I think they might have been dealing with a pandemic.
You know what? I'm not sure if they were here. They had the Battle of Blarathon. A Persian army of about 40,000 men under King Bahram VI is defeated in the lowlands near Ganzak, northwestern Iran, by the Byzantines. Of course, the Byzantines.
Yeah, you can never trust the Byzantines.
You can never trust the Byzantines. Anyway, Bill Self is now the winningest coach in Kansas history. This is, of course, our chance to remind you that James Naismith was a terrible head coach.
Just the worst. Awful. Like, surprise.
This dude invented a sport and couldn't coach it. It honestly couldn't be me. 55-60 at Kansas. Never won more than 12 games in a season. What are we doing here?
Now, the thing about James Naismith is he never embraced NIL properly.
He didn't. No, he did not. He was before his time, but still, regardless, he was extremely anti-NIL. In the end, that wound up costing him.
Anti-NIL, walking around all proud of himself. Look at me, I'm a doctor. Look at me, I'm Dr. Naismith. Yeah.
By the way, hold on. Speaking of Dan Shulman, he actually texted me after the fact on this. This was last month, because he was catching up on a few podcasts. He gave clarity to the whole Canada West thing. Remember we were talking about Naismith was from Canada West. Do you remember this at all?
Yeah, I do remember realizing that the doctor was.
He said, "Here's what Shulman said." By the way, Shulman gets way too much run on this podcast right now. He said Naismith was born before Canada became a country.
What?
At that time, who knew?
Who knew?
At that time, it was split into Canada East, what is now Quebec, and Canada West, what is now Ontario. And after the Confederation in 1867, they became known as Upper Canada, now in Ontario. Lower. I mean, Shulman was giving me an entire history.
I was always a big fan of Canada West myself.
I'm more of a Canada East guy.
I ride with the West Coast in 2024.
Give me Canada East. I think that's my crew right there. But anyway, who knew? James Naismith, born before Canada was a country, and also a terrible basketball coach. Not true of Bill Self, who is now the winningest coach in Kansas history. Congrats to him. He also kind of shook a lot of that off, but Bill Self has already been established as easily among the 10 greatest coaches. You can put him among the 5 greatest if you really want to make that case. And in particular, hitting this milestone means something at that program to have won more games than anyone else. He's going to obviously cruise past 600, probably flirt with 700 if he wants to coach that long. So good on him. and his team winning a game that frankly was not that cosmetically appealing. My takeaway from it was about Hunter Dickinson. We can save that for a minute on that, but you take it where you want, GP. Self, Kansas, Michigan State, wherever.
Yeah, like Hunter after the game said more or less, Coach never wants to shine, but here's the truth. He's the best coach in Kansas basketball history and one of the best coaches of all time. And that's true.
Yep.
I think both of those things are true. Like Bill has been talking about this for a week now. Like it's presented to him, even when in the post-game interview, they're like, and you know what tonight means? And he's like, what? Like he knows what tonight means. He's just playing on, he
goes with the classic. Well, it means I'm old.
Yeah, right. Like he's got all his lines together. He's an like, 4 Final Fours, 2 national championships, all that stuff. But to me,
it's the Big 12 consecutive years.
Outrageous.
That's insane. I mean,
this guy owns 16 Big 12 regular season titles. That is insane. Insane.
It's ridiculous. At one point was a consecutive winner. How many years in a row? 12? Do we know?
Yeah,
it's a ridiculous run.
Yeah,
ridiculous
it just
will not be duplicated ever again.
No, nobody will ever do what he did at the power conference level again. I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
What he did in that streak will never be replicated at the power conference level. So it's a historic night for him. Kansas, they're number 1 in the country, like by a sizable margin in the AP poll. And they're clearly really good. I mean, they already own wins over North Carolina and Michigan State, but it hasn't quite popped yet. Like, oh boy, they're scary. We haven't seen that yet, have we?
We have not. I mean, they are deserving of the number 1 ranking because they were put there in the preseason. And as I wrote on Tuesday night, there were some warts on the win Tuesday, and even the North Carolina one game, which was a thrilling game, but they blew a 20-point lead. But whatever, like you get to 3 games into the season, you play UNC and Michigan State, and you haven't lost yet. Like you just take the wins how you get them, and continue to work on it. Dickinson was the story to me on Tuesday night. 28 points, 12 rebounds. Key here, only 1 foul, 1 turnover, was 13 of 21 from the field. And while there wasn't a lot of reliable production around him, and I do think the shooting's going to be there from Mayo and Griffin and Storr, to see Kansas play a good opponent. We'll get to Michigan State in a second here because they've obviously got plenty of questions there. But to see Dickinson, when he's the number 1 guy on the scouting report, to show up like that, like he's never going to be a plus guy defensively. It's just not going to be the case. But for him to be capable of being what he was on Tuesday night, I actually think was an important development, because going into the season, although Dickinson was a preseason All-American, I think it was fair to just be curious on, okay, is he going to wind up taking a step back in production in an effort to lift the transfers that came in around him? Will we see KJ Adams take on an increased role? KJ Adams might be a lot of the same that he's been. He's been good, but I don't know if he's gonna take a huge leap this season. So I thought it was significant and meaningful that Dickinson stepped up, because had he not done that, Michigan State made a good push in the second half. But they needed Dickinson and every little bit of it. And it did also mean something to him because of his history. I mean, he started his career obviously at Michigan in a number of years. He's going against Michigan State. He hates Michigan State, and he winds up having another good game and a big win over him. And, that's the kind of thing that he'll care about when he's 75 years old, just that he finished his career, barring these teams never meeting again, which we wouldn't expect this season, to go off and be responsible for getting that done there. So not a ton happening around him, but certainly enough there, and give Kansas a little more time. I'm not fretting whatsoever if I'm a Kansas fan. You win despite Zeke Mayo only with 6 points, Dwan Harris 11, KJ Adams 7, AJ Storr off the bench. Storr has not popped yet. I think that's coming, but you get enough done, and credit to Dickinson because he was the reason it happened.
Yeah, he was 13 of 21 from the field, 28 points, 12 rebounds. So that's the good. The bad, Kansas shot below 30% from 3. Nobody besides Hunter reached 12 points. The truth is Kansas wasn't very good, but like Michigan State was worse. It was just an ugly game. Like the two teams combined to shoot 8 of 41 from 3. That's like 19.5%.
Well, dude, Michigan State was 3 of 24. Yeah. So like 12.5%, and they're only hitting 20% of their threes on the season. This happened a year ago. Remember Michigan State missed like its first 45 3-point attempts on the season. Not not good. Anyway, continue.
Right, yeah. Like Xavier Booker was 0 of 5 from the field. Frankie Fiddler 3 of 12 from the field. Jaden Akins 1 of 8 from the field. How about this? Their starters were a combined 9 of 36 from the field, 25%. Like that, that's never going to be good enough against a quality opponent. I never want to encourage coaches to play games like this and then bang them in the head when they lose them or don't perform well. But like Michigan State didn't play well, and I'm sure Tom went to bed frustrated last night.
Yeah, Jaden Akins, man, 2 points on 8 shots. But you know what? Okay, I'm going to see Michigan State and Maui. I'm waiting on the evaluation on Michigan State and what they can be. Let me see them play a few games out in the Middle Pacific there and see what it is. Jackson Kohler, like there's some good encouraging stuff. You heard some good buzz out of him in the preseason. You saw some of that. Jeremy Fierce had some good moments. Frankie Fiddler actually had 15 points and 8 boards. Transfer from Omaha. I don't think you want him to be the guy most nights. But yeah, it was not a great showing for Michigan State, but they did compose themselves and really make it at least semi-interesting in the second half, where had Kansas really been clicking on all cylinders, it wouldn't have even been a close game. Quick question for you. ESPN announced earlier on Tuesday, I guess, that the Champions Classic is getting extended to 2028, which is a good thing because it's a really good event, and it marks the unofficial start, I guess, in earnest for the college basketball season because of the nature of the event and teams involved and all that stuff. Dan Wolken, despite this fact that the events through 2028 and these 4 teams are going to continue to play in it for the next 4 seasons, he wrote that it's time to boot Michigan State from this event. MSU is now 5-9 in the Champions Classic, and it's not the clown soldier meme that gets sent around where it's 4 soldiers holding guns and 3 of them are in fatigues and one's in a clown suit. That's not what this is. Okay. That's completely disrespectful to Michigan State. However, and I even saw Dan Wetzel tweet, like, how many more national championships does UConn need to win in order to get into the Champions Classic? It's a fair thing to wonder about. But they're not going to boot MSU from it. However, it's time for the Spartans to start picking up some slack. Like that is a fair, like, hey man, like, you got to get back to another Final Four. You're going to win a national championship. Like I get all that. Kentucky's most recent title was 2012. Duke's was 2015, and Kansas obviously just a few years ago there. But I didn't know if you had anything. This seems to have bubbled up this season more than before. But even if people are wanting a change, that's not going to happen. Michigan State will still be involved at least until 2028.
I don't see any reason to boot Michigan State from the Champions Classic just because they aren't champions as much as we would like for them to be.
It's become a little bit of a thing now.
It's fine.
I know it didn't help that was like, why is this? And then Michigan State didn't look good in this game, but
that is one of the best and consistently great college basketball programs in the country. Correct.
And if you really want to like dive even further into this, the Big Ten is no longer has a media deal with ESPN, so right. ESPN will take Michigan State has a very big fan base and alumni base, and they will get Michigan State on their air very few times. So they're gonna, for that reason as well, like they will keep.
That's the other thing. Whenever you're, sitting at your desk discussing multi-team events and neutral court stuff, don't ever discount the role television networks play in this. ESPN wants Michigan State. That's a massive brand, and that maybe it's the 4th best program running over the past decade of the 4 programs, but it's still probably one of the 10 or 15 best programs in America. Yeah, they don't need to apologize for being in the Champions Classic.
I agree, but it's just it had perked up and bubbled up. You want to get to the other not good result for one team on Tuesday night here?
Yeah, we'll do. I guess we'll call it a Wednesday Whiparound.
I really, frankly, like you put Whiparound in the doc. This is not Whiparound material. There's like 2 results we're talking about, but regardless,
I want to whip around a little bit. You think I slept 3 hours on a Tuesday night just to wake up and not whip around a little bit? Okay. I want to whip around a little bit. We'll do the Wednesday whip around next. Obviously, we'll start with Villanova. First, let's get another word from our partners.
Saturdays at 3:30. It's big time. Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
The Champions Classic wasn't the only notable thing that happened in college basketball over the past couple of nights. Up on Hawk Hill, St. Joe's upset Villanova and handed Kyle Neptune his latest disappointing loss. Final score, St. Joe's 83, Villanova 76. So Kyle Neptune has now lost 8 games to sub-100 KenPom teams in 2 seasons and 4 games. Jay Wright, as I've told you before.
You don't have to do this every time.
I didn't tweet it. I didn't tweet it.
Go ahead.
It would have felt cruel to tweet it again. I was like, I mean, obviously I got it all locked and loaded. And I was like, what is the point? I actually feel bad for the fan base. I feel bad for Kyle. Jay only lost 2 games to sub-100 KenPom teams in his final 9 seasons at Villanova, which means Kyle Neptune has now lost 4 times as many such games in less than a quarter of the time. That's how you get fired in the middle of year 3. Hasn't happened yet, but I don't know. I had a friend of mine, a Villanova fan, email last night, and they were like, is this over? And I said, I don't know, but you can't do too much more of this. It feels like if we were putting odds, like you'd have to get in touch with, one of the betting, one of the sports books. But if you put odds on power conference coach most likely to be terminated midseason, Kyle Neptune's got to be like minus 400 on that right now.
Yeah, I think the stat is something like, I think in the final 10 years of Jay Wright's career, he might have only had 1 or 2 Big 5 losses, period. Schools in Philadelphia, obviously. And if you include Drexel into that, which technically now Drexel, it's 6 schools that are in the Big 5. Neptune has 5 losses to Philadelphia schools in his 3 seasons there. This game was on CBS Sports Network. Before we get to the game and the result, this isn't a call out. It's just more of an observation. The St. Joe's mascot could have been flapping with a little more frequency. I felt like there was a beat between. I understand it's not easy. I'm not saying I could do it. I've seen plenty of St. Joe's mascots over the years, and they just brought it at a slightly higher level. I'm just saying, I couldn't help but notice standing in the corner.
I've been doing this for 10 seconds, and I'm already tired. Like You're
not even doing it. I don't even know this. That's like an albatross. That's not a flapping of the wings. You gotta go up and then down, up and then down. Yeah.
Man,
there we go. Yeah. Listen, I'm not saying it's easy work. I'm saying there were generations of Hawks that came before the person doing it on Tuesday, and they were giving it a go. It was good. I was kind of like, it's the Villanova game. Like, I don't know. I couldn't help the eye couldn't help but float to that part of the screen every so often there. But that's further down the list.
This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I want to go take a nap.
Okay.
Right now. This is.
Yeah, I give it a B. It was better than the Villanova performance.
I could not do that for 20 minutes. There's no chance I could do that for 20 straight minutes.
I know.
Let's see
if we can, awesome college tradition.
Let's see if we can finish this podcast.
There's no chance.
There is no chance. This is impossible.
There's no chance I'm doing that.
This is how you become a professional wrestler, I think. Yeah. I think if I were to do this for an hour, I could be in the bloodline.
I don't think that's the case. This marked the first time in 20 years. Shouts to Delonte West, shots to Jameer Nelson, that St. Joe's beat Villanova in consecutive seasons. Had not happened since 03-04, that classic 30-2 team. Pat Carroll, Tyrone Barley. Come on now. That's the last time it happened. A good win for St. Joe's. That was in a tight spot as well. We previously mentioned St. Joe's took a home loss to Central Connecticut on Friday. They bounced back 83-76 here. And you know what? I'm sure Nova had at the top of its scouting report to contain Eric Reynolds, and they did that. He had 9 points, but Xavier Brown, 13 assists in this game, 18 points. He played well. Derek Simpson played well. Rasheer Fleming, if you watched the game, Rasheer Fleming was the real troublemaker for Villanova. He was able to really get in there. And then on the Nova side, you had 24 from Dickinson. Jameer Brickus, actually, he had a number of important shots to keep Nova in the game, but they were chasing St. Joe's there. And it's another loss. So Nova's now 2-2. Those losses, it's not just that you lose to a mid-major opponent and you take another loss when you shouldn't have, although, you can make the case, and I don't even know what the line was. You could, if St. Joe's was favored in the game, it wouldn't surprise me. Actually, I didn't see the line. Maybe you did, GP. But I think some people won't even consider that an upset, and the fact that it's not even considered an upset in the eyes of some is a damning commentary unto itself. And now Villanova has to turn around on Friday and play in Baltimore. Why this game's in Baltimore, don't ask me. Play against Virginia, which is 2-0, but it's only played Campbell. Those Fighting Camels. Yeah, baby. And Coppin State. So we wait and see. Like, Virginia might not be good at all. We'll see on that entirely. But Nova, Virginia, maybe we just toss that into the Final Four and 1 on Friday's show for the sicko factor, because who the hell knows what's going to happen there. But the point is this: we don't even know if Virginia's good, and now Nova's got to play them. If Nova were to lose that game, oh boy. Not sure what else you can add or want to add from this, man, GP, but it's just it's the latest loss. And yes, it's not entirely done, but it is very much trending that way for Kyle Neptune.
My arms are sore. That was the most I don't even know how somebody does that.
Well, you're not even doing it the right way. I don't know what this is. What is this?
Me.
This is not what he does.
I think I'm inadvertently doing the Trump. I
think that's
do that. I think I'm inadvertently doing the Trump. Jesus Christ. It's been a rough week, you know? I barely slept last night.
Well, you got it better than Kyle Neptune at the moment.
I do. You know what? That's what I remind myself sometimes when I'm feeling down.
Well, okay.
You know, we're all going through it a little bit. And sometimes when I'm feeling down, I'm like, at least I didn't lose to a sub 100 Kim-Pom team again. You know,
true. You never do that. You never do.
I don't. I never have. I don't think that's something I would do. No, like, in all seriousness, it just stinks. Like, the Villanova is one of our biggest brands. And, you know, Jay handed over a Ferrari to Kyle, and it's just it's not working. Yeah, there's no sense in piling on. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just not working. And if you know, you could just envision a scenario where you score 38 points against Virginia and lose, and that might be, you know, I don't know what their perspective is at Villanova, but when random Villanova fans are emailing me on a Tuesday night being like, can we just be done with this? That's not a great place to be.
Yeah. Not a saying here. Villanova was a 2.5 point favorite. A couple other results of note since we last talked. Florida, Todd Golden coached, as was, I think we talked about it on the Sunday show, that he was going to coach. I think it had been officially announced there. So Florida beat Grambling State, and he opened his post-game press conference saying, I can't tell you more. I'd like to, but I have to stick to my statement there. So status remains unchanged. That was from Monday night. Not a ton. Frankly, with the exception of just a couple games here, it is a little bit of a sleepy week, which isn't great. Dylan Harper had 24 points as Rutgers got a push from St. Peter's, but ultimately wound up winning on Monday. DePaul has matched its season win total from a season ago. It is now 3-0.
Yep.
I've got a story on Chris Holtman coming soon enough there, but DePaul got the win over Mercer. So congrats to DePaul for doing that. And then Tuesday, Oregon needed overtime to beat Portland. I did, GP. I was having, as I was saying earlier, I was wired after that Kentucky Duke game. I debated staying up, but my wife's away on work. I got both the kids, and I was like, I can't do this to myself. It's the second week of the season, so I was like, if they lose, we'll talk about it on the show, and I'll look into it. But they won 80-70. They got to overtime, but when I turned the TV off, it was like a 13-point Portland lead deep into midway through the second half. They were able to wind up surviving that. So Dana Altman's program avoids a really bad loss there. What else? Ole Miss is 3-0, but it's been a ranked team, but it's had a little bit of issues in terms of it's had some competitive games there, but it's had a different leading scorer in each game so far along the way. UCF beat FAU. Not a ton else. North Florida could not get to a third high major win. It was not able to go in Athens and win on Tuesday night. Georgia wound up winning 90-77. Yeah,
let's before we get out of here, look ahead to the next couple of nights. There's not great.
Not great, man. This is,
and by not great, I mean like find something else to do.
What I think we might have to open the show on. I mean, unless here's the thing, not great matchups, but that could mean we get an upset of note. Other than that, I don't know what we're opening Friday show with.
Oh, I'll figure it out. Hey, the thing you might not know about me is I plan shows every day, so I'll figure it out.
Figure out something.
I'll figure it out, but not great over the next couple of nights. On Wednesday night, 7 ranked teams are playing, but all of them are playing totally outmatched opponents because in college basketball, about 20% of a high major schedule is in the regular season, at least, is going to be games against totally outmatched opponents. Huge flaw in the sport. Too many games are the equivalent of the Boston Celtics against the South Bay Lakers. If you're looking for power conference versus power conference stuff, we got Cal at Vanderbilt. It's a battle of the smart schools. Battle of the little geniuses playing basketball against each other. Yeah, Cal at Vanderbilt. UConn's the highest ranked team playing. Huskies are hosting Lemoyne. They're 33-point favorites, I saw. So.
That's French for Le Moyne.
Yeah, they should be fine. Thursday night, 0 ranked teams in action.
What's trivia time? What's Lemoyne's nickname?
Lemoyne?
Yep. There's only 2 of them. I believe there's only 2 of these in D1.
Yeah. They're the
look at the chat. Hasn't been said yet, but don't look.
Yeah, they're the Lemoyne Badgers.
They're not the Badgers. Let's see if you can get it in 5 guesses real quick here.
Okay.
Badgers is no.
Yeah, they're the Lemoyne Mastodons.
Nope. Let's see if I can give you a guess here. It is an animal that does not have feet.
They're the Lemoyne amputees.
Nope.
That's what I think that's what you're supposed to call people with no feet.
In the chat, don't look.
Yeah, I'm not looking. Are you sure it's not amputees?
I'm positive.
Well, what would you call somebody that have no feet? A diabetic, probably.
Okay.
They're the Lemoyne diabetics.
Okay.
Are they the Lemoyne diabetics?
No. They are the Lemoyne
Baylines. The Lemoyne Baylines.
No, they're the Lemoyne Dolphins. I'm sure there's a very good reason why Lemoyne's nickname is the Dolphins, but that part of the country obviously not known for its dolphin population.
That's what I think of when I think, where's Lemoyne? Isn't that in New York?
You don't even know. What state is Lemoyne in?
I want to say New York.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think
what school is it closest to?
Canisius.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
I don't know why I just wanted to say Canisius all of a sudden.
Why not? I'll put Canisius in the show anytime.
What is Lemoyne? Lemoyne is next to Syracuse.
Correct. And back in the day when Lemoyne was not D1, it famously beat Syracuse in an exhibition game, which was the beginning of the end of Jim Boeheim's career, as we all know. Yes.
I want to say, tell me if this is true. Like Lemoyne beat Syracuse, and then Syracuse won a national title. Does that make sense? Or is am I making that up?
That's not the case.
Okay. Well, then chop their feet off.
Okay.
Hold on. Tell me how your head went from they're the Dolphins, so I'll call them an animal with no feet.
A dolphin doesn't have feet. What are you talking about?
I know, but that's just a weird thing to think about.
Well, I was trying to if I said it's an animal in the water, I thought that was going to be your next hint.
Like you could have been like, there was a famous Memphis rapper that identified this way, or Flipper. Instead, you went with no feet.
No, I didn't want to give it away. I was trying to give you a slight hint.
I think dolphins should have feet. I think that would be hilarious.
Okay, well, take it up with evolution. Okay, take it up with Charles Darwin.
I'm going to take it. I need to get Charles Darwin on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
You telling me all these centuries we can't get a dolphin a few feet?
Maybe back in 591 that was the case, but no longer. What else do we have on the schedule?
Grand Canyon against Arizona State.
That actually has some spice to it. That's a Thursday game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that'll be fun. LSU is at Kansas State on Thursday.
That's also those teams are actually 49-50 at KenPom right now. So a couple, we'll see what comes off of that. Grand Canyon, that game is not at Grand Canyon. It's at the Footprint Center.
Yeah,
it's Phoenix. But Grand Canyon obviously entirely capable of that. Want to see how Arizona State responds after giving Gonzaga, that WCC program. Want to see how they respond to that one. But that's actually Grand Canyon, Arizona State's actually pretty damn intriguing. So that's by far to me the best game or the best matchup of the next 2 nights. But other than that, it's kind of thin and anemic. And then once we get to Friday, don't you worry. Friday we got some games. Saturday there's certainly a couple of games to note. So we'll have stuff to entertain you and talk to you about on Friday's show. But otherwise, I think that's a show.
We'll open on Dolphins if nothing happens tonight, Thursday night. We'll sit here on Friday morning and talk about Dolphins for another 15 minutes. Doesn't matter to me. God knows I've done worse. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Huck, Barnell. Thank you guys once. Shouts to Young Dolph. Rest in peace. You know?
Yeah.
He had feet. The rare dolphin with feet. Young Dolph. Rest in peace. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts. Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That needs to be made clear in the comments. So make sure you do that. Thank you in advance. We'll talk to you again on Friday morning. Till then,